Hello guys, welcome back to another episode here on European Confessions. There is a message that I want to share with you guys, and the message reads like this. Hello my brother, how are you? Can you please post for me as anonymous? I have my own story that I want you to share on your platform. My story goes on like this. I have my own sister. This sister of mine, my brother, she has finished us off. She has finished us off a lot, and we don't even know where to start. I am a Zimbabwean man who is staying in South Africa with his family. A lot of people, they even wonder, why is it most of the people who do these rituals come from Zim? I am even confused, my brother, as to why all of these things are happening in our country, but the truth needs to be spoken. These people that are doing all of these rituals, they are making us to suffer, and we are suffering, my brother. As for my sister, she went and she took some of these charms there in Mozambique. That is where she went. I do not even know if I should blame my sister as such, because even as for our forefathers, they were the ones that started with all of these money-making rituals stuff. My forefathers, they were known to be very bad people, and they didn't even care or feel sorry for other human beings. We had one of our uncles who had several butcheries, and when we grew up, we also heard of his stories. There was even an incident whereby we were told that there was a human head that he used to place inside one of the fridges that were at his other butchery. And that uncle of ours, he was a man that was a very big supplier in Harare. He used to supply a lot of supermarkets. This was soon after the independence in the 1980s to the 1985s. That was when he had a very big butchery, and as someone who was very linked up with the party that had been voted, this was soon after the independence. His supply contracts never ran dry, and so him not wanting to have any competition, that was when he did those rituals. A lot of stuff, my brother, they happen in our family. My father and his brother, we had stories of them having murdered a man who was from Malawi. This man, he used to work at our uncle's farm, so we only had the rumors that since this man, he didn't have an ID, no birth certificate, no what, after they had kidnapped him and sliced off his head, that was when they used him for all of the ritualistic charms that they used using his body parts. And they knew that since he was from Malawi, there was no one who was going to come and look for him. A lot of people in those days that came from Malawi and Mozambique, they used to work on the farms as domestic workers, and a lot of people were taking advantage of them. Back in the 1980s, a lot of people went missing. Their body parts, they were being sold off to those people that were doing money-making rituals, and a lot of people, they know about these people. In the 1980s, a lot of mothers, they were scared when they would be sending their kids to school, not knowing if the kids would come back because of the people that used to roam around, and they were kidnapping people and cutting off their parts and selling off them to the people who were making those money-making rituals. So we had the stories that my father and his elder brother, they were also involved in all of those kidnappings and the cutting up of human body parts, and they ended up sacrificing one of our uncle's worker who was from Malawi, and they sliced off his head. And our uncle, he was the one who was using that man's head so that he can chase away all of the competition. We heard the stories that our father's brother, he used to go around with a cooler box in his car, and inside that cooler box, it was said that there was a human head that was present at all the times. Sometimes he would go to one of his butcheries. This would be late at night, and he would place that sliced off head that they had sliced and he would go and place it inside one of the fridges where the meat was kept, and he would do it so that the head would call the customers into the butchery. And if there was someone who wanted to have their own smaller butchery next to the place where he had his own butchery, then the head will be used to fight off that person, even to kill that person. We had such stories in the family when we were growing up, but all of these stories were made to be kept as a secret. So when our uncle and when our father passed away, that was when a lot of evil was left in the family, and no one could even control all the evil that was left in the family. And these evil charms, my brother, when their time has expired, there is no one that can even control them. And if you fail to return them when you are still alive to that witch doctor that would have given you all of these charms, then they will start to do whatever they want with the next generation. They won't leave the family forever. They will keep on troubling your offspring that you would have left after you would have died. My father and his siblings, they had their properties which are still there in Harare, in the most expensive suburbs there in Harare. You name it, your Chisipitis, your Borodels, your Avondels. My father and his siblings, that is where they had their houses. That is where we grew up. But our family homes, they are just ungovernable. Even when we grew up, we used to hear some strange movements, especially at night. Now that I am a grown-up man, I am even afraid to look out of the window at night, knowing all of those things that we grew up seeing, some of the creatures that you won't even know if it was a dog, if it was a hyena, or if it will be a lion. But it always surprised us because, as for me, we grew up in a rich suburb called Borodel, which is there in Zim. And there was one incident when one of my sisters called me to her spare room and her window was opened. I asked her why she had dared to open her window during the night, and her curtain as well was opened up, and she said she didn't even know how the window had managed to open itself as well as the curtain, because she was sitting by a study desk and she was busy studying, and her back was against the window. So whilst she was studying, she said that she heard as if outside there was something that was walking around, and when she went to check what was walking around, when she opened the curtain, she saw that there was a hyena that was just standing there on the lawn, and the hyena was looking at her. Then the hyena started walking towards her, towards the direction of her spare room. Then it just disappeared. Then the dogs started barking. So she thought that maybe it was one of our neighbor's dogs. But when she went back to sit on her study desk, that was when she felt something opening the window. And when she looked back, that was when she saw that the curtain and the window were wide open. My brother, when she told me this story, I thought that she was pranking me. When I was about to leave a spare bedroom, that was when I saw that creature, and the image can never leave my mind. This creature, my brother, it looked like a lion. At the same time, it looked like a dog. It was just walking around. Mind you, my brother, at our house, we had those big dogs that most of the people who stays in the suburbs love keeping, and they just went quiet. They were not even barking or making any sound, but I felt that the dogs, they were close by, but they were scared to bark at that creature that was regularly walking on the lawn. After we had seen everything that we had seen, that was when my mother came into the spare room. And when she came into the spare room, instead of comforting my sister, I don't even know as to why, she started beating up my sister. And she said that my sister was just lazy to study. That was why she had came up with all of those stories. She kicked me out of my sister's spare room, and I went into my own spare room. My brother, that image is still still stuck in my mind even up until today. So we grew up under those difficult circumstances whereby even though we were staying in the suburbs, but there was no peace at home at all. After our parents had passed away, me and my siblings, we then migrated and we came here to South Africa. Here in South Africa, I have a house that I bought here as well as my siblings. They all bought their properties here in South Africa. That house that was left off by our parents, we have tried to sell it off, my brother, but whenever we try to sell off that property, something will always come up, and I ended up returning back to Zim. When I went back to Zim with the intention of finally selling off that house that was left by our parents, something bad happened along the way. It was me and my wife, and as we were driving, all of a sudden I started dozing off whilst I was driving. And my brother, I am that type of a driver whereby if I am driving, I can drive without ever feeling tired. But on this trip, it seemed as if something was happening to my body, like there was a ton of bricks that had been placed on my shoulders. I felt so tired. I felt so fatigued like I had never felt in my life. And if we were not driving a very big car on that day, my brother, I think that me and my wife, we could have been history by now, because as soon as we had passed this other small town that is just outside of Masvingo, and when we were driving, that was when I saw this other car that was coming from the opposite direction, and it was driving in my lane. I tried switching the lanes, but there was another truck that was traveling again in that lane. That car was trying to overtake this other truck, so I had no choice. I had to go off-road, and as for me, I was traveling in high speed. The moment that I got off from the tar road and when I started traveling in the gravel road so as to avoid a head-on collision with that car that was traveling in my lane, I found myself hitting this other stone, and that stone, it punched the tire and it ripped open the tire. That is what happened on that day. After I had successfully stopped the car, when I got out of the car, I saw that about 2 meters ahead of me there was a big hole, and if it had happened that I had not stopped just before I had hit that big hole, I think that maybe the car that we were traveling in, it could have overturned my brother. We stayed there throughout the day. There was a mechanic who came and helped us, but my brother, the car, even though it was a well-serviced car, but it kept on giving us problems. That was when my wife called our pastor, whom we had left back in South Africa. Then the pastor advised us not to go ahead with the plan, and we wanted to sell off the property, but he said, "My children, just come back, and if you go there, I feel that you are not going to be safe." So we ended up going to my in-laws, to my wife's parents. We stayed there until we returned back to South Africa. That was the scary thing that happened to me. As for my parents, my brother, at our family house, there is this tool shed. It is quite a very small tool shed, and it is still there at our family house. It has never been opened ever since my father fell sick. He only said he was going to open it up before he had passed away, but when he passed away, then his relatives said that his spirit was supposed to come back, and it was supposed to tell us, his children, what was supposed to happen, and we do not even know what the hell is inside that small tool shed where he used to keep his garden tools. Me and my younger brother, we once joked and we said the next time that we return back home in Zim, we should open it up and see what is in there. But we are scared as a family, my brother. No one even wants to go to that property which our parents left for us. That is how scared we are as a family. Now coming back to one of my sisters, the one that I was saying that she is finishing us of she has her own problems. So she was failing to keep a stable relationship. She was failing to have a child. So she went to this other witch doctor and she then got a child. From there on, that was when she went to Mozambique and she got her charms. She was given her charms or her goblins. In our country, we call it chikwambo. In South Africa, they call it tokoloshi. It is just a demonic evil spirit. She is one of those. Recently, there have been a lot of people that have been dying in our family. People are dying left, right, and center. And people that are dying in our family, they are the elderly people that are left remaining in the family. She is finishing them off and she doesn't even care, my brother. Since people have started dying in the family, we have lost about 6 people. All of them, they are elderly people that we have lost in a space of only 3 years, my brother. It was just a few weeks ago that she came here to South Africa, and when she came here, she purchased, you know what, they are those brand new Toyota Land Cruisers, the ZX type. That is the car that she came and she purchased. When she purchased that car, she said that she didn't want that car to be driven from South Africa going back to Zim. But what she did is that she hired a South African towing company which overcharged her, and she didn't even complain. You know how much the towing company charged her for towing that car from South Africa going to Zim? She was charged 75,000 rands just to tow that single vehicle. It was a brand new car, my brother. And with that price that she used to tow that car, 75,000 K, I think that she could have purchased a brand new car. But that is how much money she has. She has a lot of cars, and we don't even know where her money is coming from. It is like at her house, she has this garden whereby she just goes and she picks up money from her garden. And when I look at my brother-in-law, which is her husband, I feel so sorry for that man. You can see that the man is just a useless man. He cannot do anything. He cannot think for himself. And as a family, we know that our sister, she is the one who made our brother-in-law to be that powerless. That man cannot do anything. And right now, she is even bold enough to go around with her boyfriends. When she came here to South Africa, I even avoided to see her because one of my sisters told me that she was having her boyfriend at this other hotel where they were booked, and I just felt irritated, disgusted, and I didn't want her to bring her boyfriend into my house. Like, what is she going to teach my children? And I avoided her at all costs. I only heard that she had came here to purchase her car and she went back to Zim, and then a car followed. My brother, this woman, she has a lot of money. Going back to our forefathers, they were the richest guy back in those days in Harare. They were the big boys of Harare during those days. They were driving those Toyota Prados. People who grew up in the late 1980s to the 1990s, they know that in Zim, for you to be called a wealthy person, you will be driving a Toyota Prado. But our parents, our forefathers, they left nothing for us. Yes, they left some properties for us, but they are not valuable to us as children because we are even scared to stay or to occupy those properties that they left behind for us. These are the consequences of using blood money, because whilst you are alive, you can enjoy, but once you have died, you will leave nothing for your own children. Right now, my brother, I am staying in South Africa, and back home, our parents, they left such a beautiful house, but we cannot go and stay in that beautiful house because of all the rituals and all the strange things that we saw growing up. And we do not even tell the people that are renting out at that place that this is what used to happen at this place that you are now staying, because we are afraid that if we tell people, then no one will ever want to occupy that house. And as for my sister, my brother, all of the funerals that has happened in the family so far, All of those funerals, my brother, they are hosted at her house. Even if someone dies in the village, she prefers that the body be taken to a mortuary. Then the mortuary will transfer the body into Harare from the village. Then the funeral will be hosted at her place, and after the funeral at her place, the body will be taken back to her village where it came from in the first place. When people say that out there evil is real, yes, I can confirm that evil is real. How can you do something like that to a person that has died? Because as Africans, we believe that once a person has passed away, then you need to let that person to rest. Why does she does such a thing? Like our auntie who recently passed away, she was around 69. She was quite an old woman. When she passed away, we heard that her body was taken into the mortuary, and from the mortuary she was transferred to Harare. Then we had the funeral at her home for 2 days. Then on the third day, she had hired the bus, the tents, and she had hired a very big funeral company that is there in Zim. The bus then picked up people from the church where she attends. Then we headed for the rural areas where our family clan started. Just imagine doing such an evil thing to elderly people in your own family. Being here in South Africa with my family, it is just a matter of me trying to hide from the evil things that happens in our family. The most scariest part was me seeing that creature walking around our lawn, a creature that looked like a dog and it looked like a lion as well. That creature, the image can never leave my mind. I am always scared.